Are you standing or sitting in a place where you feel nothing but inertia? You cannot move. You feel trapped. You feel afraid. You don't know what your next move is supposed to be. You don't know if there's a next move. You're on the chessboard and you just don't know, or you're unsure of which direction to go because you just don't think you have a move. If you are experiencing any of those scenarios, then please listen to me. I think I may be able to help nudge you forward just a little bit. Everyone comes to that place. Everyone comes to a place in their lives when they're forced to, develop or perform self-introspection. Self-introspection is necessary in order to not look at other people, but in order to understand yourself and understand where you are at in that moment. But most people don't like to perform self-introspection. Most people get caught up in introspecting, if there's such a thing, but focusing on other people's problems. You get focused, you become focused on other people's problems, you become focused on other people's lack of growth, their inability to change, their inability to address their issues or their problems. All of a sudden, you're caught up in a cycle and a pattern that wasn't yours to start with, wasn't yours to create, but it immerses you to the point where you become stagnant. And you're so stagnant that you can't see the end of the rainbow. You can't see the light at the end of the tunnel because the distraction that other people's problems or issues have presented now becomes yours. And a lot of times too, in all honesty, the distractions that you're encountering are your own problems or your own issues. For me, when I have been faced with such dilemma and such issues in the past, one of the things that I found adequate was doing the introspection, was taking a pause. People say take a pause for a cause. This is a real good cause. The cause is for you to center yourself, to look at yourself and see what your contribution to the problem or the issue is that's preventing you from moving. A lot of people think, hey, everybody else, you get rid of the people around you, you get rid of the toxic people, and you can do better. You can only do better if you want to do better, if you choose to do better. Let me say that again. You can only do better if you yourself want to do better and make a purposeful choice to do better. A lot of times we can't do better because we don't understand what better is for us. We have come to a place where we feel defeated. Like I said earlier, feeling trapped is no small feat. When you're in a place where everything is stacked up against you and the odds seem against you, where do you go from there? Some people will tell you to pray, to reach out and do everything, but sometimes effort is what's required. The effort that it will take you to understand that what is limiting you are your thoughts, is the very notion that you're so afraid that you can't move past that fear. You have to face your fear. Fear is a very real thing, whether it's in a relationship or by yourself. If you're so afraid to move, no one can get you to move. The only thing that can move you is the releasing and letting go of that fear. That's the first thing. But before you can even get to recognizing that you're afraid, you have to become consciously aware. You have to wake up, snap out of it. Where you are right now is not where you have to remain. What you're going through right now doesn't have to be the end all or be all. One of the things I say to myself in order to get me past those moments and help me to move through them is if I truly believe that this is as good as it gets, that this is my final destination, then I'm just going to lay down. But regardless of what I've gone through in my life, I've always believed that this is not my final destination. It is not going to be unless I say it is. And with that notion, I've always pushed forward, understanding that what I'm going through right now is temporary. The moment you decide to make that thing permanent is when it becomes permanent. You're the one that puts permanency to a situation. You're the one that determines how deep and serious this thing is, right? So the first thing is become consciously aware. Recognize the emotion that's crippling you, whether it's fear, whether it's guilt, whether it's shame, whether it's embarrassment, whether it's worrying about what other people are going to say about you or do. Think about all the things and all the emotions that are crippling you in that moment that have become this large mass of fear that's inhibiting you from moving forward. Every decision and every choice that has to be made requires you to be courageous. And like they say, courage is not the absence of fear. It is the presence of fear, but the ability to face that fear. You have to find that courage within to move forward. You have to find that courage because you have to determine in your spirit that you do not want to stay here. Here is not a good place. And if it's not a good place, the longer you stay here, the less likely it is to become better. It can only get worse from here. So become consciously aware, face the distraction, become very aware of the emotions that you're feeling and experiencing. You know, so many times people come to me and say, oh, you know what, my greatest fear is failing. And the interesting thing is they've already failed. If you base it on the definition of failure, you've already failed. The fact that you have not been able to move, the fact that you cannot do anything, and here you are saying, I'm afraid to fail. Your failure is already here, is imminent, it's already occurred. So if that was your worst fear, then you have nothing else to fear. All you have to do is move, put in the effort to move forward. One of the things I wrote here is a lot of times, and I need to cover this because so many times people are very unaware of the law of attraction. You attract that which you are, James Allen said. And a lot of times when you're in a bad place, when you're in a place where you know you shouldn't be dating, you know you shouldn't be attracting other people, you know that you need to do the work on yourself and you choose not to, and then you go there purposely knowing and understanding this within yourself, but ignoring the truth, and then you attract other people. It doesn't have to be a partner or a spouse, but you attract people into your life because you are looking for a distraction from doing the work that we're talking about here. You are purposely choosing to distract yourself from the work that needs to take place in order for you never to come back here. Do you have to be here all the time? No. Can you move past this point that you're at? Absolutely. But you have to minimize the distractions. Most people are distracted by other people. And like I said, other people's problems, other people's issues, other people's situation, other people's shortcomings, other people's whatever. You have to stop the distractions around you and recognize that you should not allow anything from distracting you from your purpose. And a lot of people say, well, I don't know what my purpose is. Well, you're not going to find it if you're focused on somebody else's problems and issues. You're just not going to find it. At some point, you have to determine within yourself that you matter, that you are valuable, and attribute that value to yourself in or out of any relationship. Look at your self-worth, determine where you need to be, and then work towards getting there. You know, so I wrote this down because I do not want to forget it. Like I said earlier, you know, we give permission by carving out space that prevents us from moving forward. Stop giving people, places, and things permission to take up space in your life that they wouldn't have had if you didn't allow them to get that space. You give people permission every moment you refuse to act accordingly or to respond accordingly. Stop giving people permission. Stop and think about what you're saying and what you're doing before you just act. Stop acting on impulse. I like to tell people, you know what? If you're the kind of person that doesn't know how to say no and you act on impulse, start saying, you know what? Let me pray about it. Give me 24 or 48 hours to think about it. Let me get back to you. A lot of people use this one in relationship. Let me talk to my partner. Let me talk to my spouse. You don't have to say yes immediately, especially when you know that later on that yes is going to come back to bite you in the butt. Stop and think about your actions. Stop and think about what you're doing to yourself, and stop making yourself this victim where, you know, you're living according to the law of accident and you're not living according to the law of control. Take control of yourself. Recognize what you're doing. Recognize the fear. Recognize that you're not in a place where you're practicing conscious awareness, where you're not being conscious of not just where you're at in your space, but you're not also conscious of what other people are bringing to that space and how they're disrupting the flow of your space. Become consciously aware, stop being afraid. And even if you are afraid, develop the courage that's necessary to push through that fear. Understand that other people, places, and things can be distractions. They can provide distractions from the goal of you getting from where you are right now and going to where you're supposed to be. And more importantly, recognize your value. You are valuable. You are important. Anyone that told you that, they lied. They lied to you because they saw your value and they're minimizing it because they're afraid. They're afraid of your potential. No one can recognize their potential without understanding the value of that potential for themselves. You know, when I was in school years ago, and that was many years ago, and they put me on a debate team because they felt that I could do it because, I'm well spoken, well written, and they put me on a debate team. I wasn't ready to be on a debate team, and I bombed. I got it there and I didn't say anything because the teachers, recognized my potential, but I did not. And it was an experience that scared me and an experience that made me feel embarrassed. You have to know what you're worth. You need to know your potential. Other people can know it, but until you accept it, you're not going to be able to do the things I'm asking you to do. You are valuable. You're worth it. And you need all of this knowledge and accepting this within yourself before you can move forward from the point where you are at today, the point of inertia. My name is Ingrid Felton. As always, thank you for visiting my YouTube channel. Thank you for liking the videos, commenting on the videos. Thank you for telling other people about what I'm doing here. Continue to visit the YouTube channel because the reason I show up every month is because you continue to show up for me. And as always, I hope that you have an amazing day. And I thank you again for supporting me. Bye.